And it's a great work. And let me say this, I was able to be a part of the Pastoral Excellence Program. And I also went on a short term mission trip to South Africa. For those who regularly watch the show, you saw a 30-minute video of what took place in South Africa. So even as we went to certain places like Robben Island that people want to see, we did mission work. We went to an orphanage for young people that were involved or affected by HIV. We went to a school where a local church did ministry. We were involved and engaged in what was happening in the community. We went to a church in the middle of a township right outside of Cape Town, and we were involved in active ministry. So it wasn't a matter of we just went and showed our face. We rolled up our sleeves right alongside the people that were there, so I can bear witness to what he's saying. But now, talk to us about some of the causes that you're attached to. And as, before you answer that, I just remembered, call this old age or whatever. Lott Carey went to Liberia and organized the oldest Baptist church in Liberia, if I'm not mistaken, a church that still exists to this day. And I believe he was one of the original, if not one of the original African American settlers to Liberia. He was pretty close to being one of the originals. Is that correct?
Yes, he was one of the early U.S. citizens who relocated to Liberia, and he was the organizing pastor of Liberia's First Baptist Church, the Providence Baptist Church in Monrovia, Liberia, and is still today a very vibrant congregation doing important ministry in innovative and holistic ways. So you've got a good memory. So your old age didn't hurt you too badly at this time.
Well, let's get to this. What are some of the other causes that Lott Carey looks at? Because we know that you're involved in holistic ministry, but we also know, especially being involved with indigenous works, that they have issues, they have challenges of ministry depending on where they are in the world. And Lott Carey has picked up some of those challenges to assist those indigenous ministries. Kind of elaborate on that piece for us, if you could.
Well, in addition to our evangelism, and our understanding of evangelism is very holistic in terms of making and building disciples. And so we're very much engaged in that. In a place like South Africa, a large part of our resources go to support church planters who
Mm-hmm.
go into underserved areas and they need some support so that they'll be able to help bear witness to Christ and help be agents of transformation. That's one example of our engaging in that way. Also, we're involved in ministries of compassion. Some of the work we do in India, for example, is related to medical care, where we provide a free HIV AIDS care or free care to people who are impacted by the HIV/AIDS pandemic. We have a 7-bed hospital, very small support home where people who are indigent and they are suffering with AIDS and they're too sick to function, they can come and our physicians treat them and get them to a point where they can return home and keep their medical regimen going. We also see about 500 patients free a month in our outpatient clinic. So that's an example of working with our HIV/AIDS initiative. We're involved in empowerment. That takes place in a number of ways. One way our work of empowerment takes place is through traditional education. In a place like Liberia, where we have pre-K through 12 education, we have about 750 children. We have a program for scholarship support that we call Liberia 365, where we encourage families or individuals to commit $1 a day. It's just $365, and that pays for almost all the tuition and fees for a child in Liberia. And I don't know what you've done for $1 a day lately that has much value to you, But that's a way that the fruit is hung pretty low and accessible, and people could, support a kid for a year or for a month if they wanted to at $30 a month. But education is very, very vital and very important. For the last 6 years, every child that is, all of our seniors have passed the standardized exam that they have to take to get their high school diploma. So even though it's a country that is struggling to survive from civil decline and civil war, there still is high quality education going on at the Lott Carey Mission School. Also, some of our work of empowerment has to do with helping young adults to be who have dropped out of school or have not been able to be very successful in traditional educational models to be able to get skills training. So in Jamaica, in the poorest parish there, in St. Mary's Parish, we have a training center in a place in St. Mary's Parish,
Mm-hmm.
and there we provide young adults with skills training that is certified in general office administration, food and beverage service, and early childhood education. And I was there a few months ago and met some of the graduates, and just to hear them talk about the meaning of it to their lives. For example, I met a young guy who got his general office administration certification. He got a job in a bank, worked there a while, built his skills, made some relationships. Then he applied to be in the police force and passed, and so he's doing that. And he had his fiance with him. And so here is a young guy who, without those opportunities, may have been vulnerable to criminal enterprise because he had no opportunities to work and would not have been financially in a place to be able to propose to the woman he loves and to get ready to get married and start a family.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, with some of the young women, when they don't have education, they don't have employment opportunities, and they're susceptible to commercial sex work or sexual exploitation. And had a chance to meet one woman, and she was sharing with us that she has a child who has a learning disability, and that before entering our training program, she was ashamed of the child. So she always kept the child in, she was ashamed. But through her growing and learning in early childhood development, she came to learn that children are differently abled. And
Mm-hmm.
because a child has a learning disability does not mean they should be ashamed of it. And that child can learn and grow as well. So
Exactly.
she was telling that as a result of that, it has been transformational for her and for her own child. And that not only is she going to be gainfully employed shortly, but also in terms of her own family dynamic. So those are some examples. And then finally, I want to say a word about our anti-trafficking initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Some people believe that because slavery was abolished in the 1860s in the United States, that slavery is over. But slavery is very much alive and unfortunately very much, very well all around the world. Some estimates hold that outside the illegal drug trade, the buying and selling of people may be the second largest international enterprise. And most people who are victims of human trafficking are women and children, and most of them are forced into commercial sex work. They're sexually exploited. And so that is another part of our initiative where we come alongside in places like Ethiopia and in South Africa, programs that are helping to find people, to help them to escape from commercial sex work, to get the kind of spiritual and physical counseling that they need, and skills training, and then even sometimes microfinance grants so that they can have opportunity for safe and secure livelihoods for themselves and for their families. We also have an initiative where we're helping churches in the United States to build their awareness and mobilize for action and advocacy right here in the United States, right where you're based in Memphis, Tennessee. There's a problem with human trafficking,
Big
and it
problem.
happens right under our noses. And we need churches to build their awareness, to engage in action, and to mobilize for advocacy so that we can help to rescue those whose lives are being decimated by the demonic experience of human trafficking. So those are some of the kinds of programs and projects and initiatives that we're engaged in around the world, and it informs how we try to help churches to build their capacities to serve more effectively here in the U.S.
Well, I appreciate your work, as you know, but before we go, I want to ask you this. Basically, you have an organization that's shaped and anchored in the black church. And basically, you work with churches. You work with churches across denominations. You work with an average church, with an average pastor, with average members. You have some mega churches that are part of you, but by and large, you have churches of every size in your organization. And basically, you are the black church reaching out to indigenous populations all over the world and helping them to do ministry. Kind of talk to us about what you see with the black church. A lot of people talk down on the church, talk down on the preacher, and we have examples of preachers, let's just be honest, that haven't measured up to certain standards. So talk to us, because you seem, and Lott Carey seems, to be extremely successful in moving forward with the gospel. So kind of speak to that a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, you're right, Pastor, that there are a number of people who have had some negative and toxic experiences with some churches. On the other hand, there are a host of churches and a host of pastors and a host of people who are doing the best they can to touch lives with the transforming love of Christ. And the Lott Carey Network is a network where we work with people to help churches to grow in their capacity to empower people to be missional agents. Again, touching lives with the transforming love of Christ in their communities. And your community may be, your neighborhood might be right outside your front door, or it may be on another continent. So it's the whole world, and we don't get into debates about what we have to do here at home and what we have to do abroad, because all of it is God's world. And what we try to do is help to broaden people's horizons about the possibilities and about the partnerships where it can enhance your capacity to touch lives with the transforming love of Christ. And that's kind of our tagline. That's what our business is. And if a church is not engaged in that kind of work, then it raises a question about the validity of that church and the direction of that church leadership. So we're not so concerned about churches accumulating people and accumulating resources, etc. What our emphasis is to encourage and to equip and to challenge churches to distribute the resources so that none have to go without. We also have training modules that we help people to kind of frame the understanding of what missions is and what it can look like. We have assessment tools that churches can utilize. An assessment tool that's called How Mission Minded Is My Church helps you take a baseline of kind of where you are in issues of leadership, organization, financial stewardship, etc., and gives you examples of other levels that you can aspire to. So you may test out at level 1 in this area and you want to move to level 3 in the next 2 years. At least you know what it looks like. We also had, for example, this last year at our annual session, we used a study resource called a contextual Bible study on gender-based violence.
Wow.
And so it's a teaching method of contextual-based Bible study is a way that honors what everybody brings to the text. Whether you read really well or whether you're illiterate, it doesn't matter. Everybody is equal at this table with the text, with the Lord's Word. And you bring your understanding and others bring their understanding, and then we try to draw out of the text what the text is saying. And this is it's a 12 series Bible study that is using some of those texts where it portrays these just horrific experiences of violence against women. What we're trying to do is help churches to break the silence of gender-based violence. In many, many cities and many, many communities, people know that there are women and that there are girls who are victimized and violated simply because they're female, and they get beat up. Sometimes in their homes, sometimes with dates with their boyfriends, in other kind of settings, and the church is too often silent. Not because we want to enable it, but because we don't know what to do and don't know what to say.
Exactly.
And so this is a resource that helps churches to start examining the biblical text and helps them to understand more of what's going on so they can build their awareness and build their capacities to stand up for those who are being victimized and who may not have voice to be able to make sure that their cry is heard. We have similarly a resource for HIV and AIDS ministries. We sometimes have churches that say, what are we supposed to say and what are we supposed to do? Well, we've got a piece, a guide that says what the church can do and what you can say. And it helps. It is a framework. It's not plug and play, but it's a framework. So if we talk about things like abstinence outside of marriage and be faithful in a monogamous marriage, but we also talk about the need to correctly and consistently use condoms if there's any risk of infection. We talk about delaying sexual debut until at least 21, and sometimes I get punched on that one because people misinterpret what we're saying, and they say we're telling people when they get 21 go out and have sex. It's not what we're saying. But with more and more children basically having their sexual debut at 15, 14, and 13, and 12, what we're trying to say to churches is equip your people to make a pledge that says, I'm not going to have my sexual debut until at least 21. So I'm going to wait till I'm 21. And at 21, you make better decisions than you do at 14.
I would think so.
And so, and so those are some examples of some of the tools that we put in people's hands. And our experience is that there are a lot of people, they really want to make a difference. They want to be agents of transformation, but they need some tools.
Exactly.
And, there are a lot of folks who they're a little better on the inspiration, but they need a little help on the transformation. And so we're not bothering them on the inspiration part, but we're really ready and willing and able to help people with the transformation piece so that we can be agents of change in an era and in an age where people are really thirsty and longing for the transforming love of Jesus Christ.
Well, let me thank you for being with us. And periodically, we hope to connect with you and the Lott Carey Network so that we can let the world know and let our viewers see here in Memphis what is going on across the diaspora, and that there are churches, there are ministries that are active in transformation. So Dr. Goatley, thank you. We've had Dr. David Goatley with us from the Lott Carey Foreign Mission Convention, and we look forward to more dialogue with you.
Thank you, Pastor. It's been a joy to talk with you today. I look forward to visiting again.
Yes, sir. This is Black Thought, and I'm your host, Dr. Hutchinson. I just had a black thought. Put your mind in gear and put your thinking cap on.